Hello, everyone. Thank you for taking time to join us this evening for our At Home Together virtual educational series. Today's program is entitled Family, Finance, and Philanthropy. I'm Dr. Marjorie Bessel, and I have the privilege of serving Banner Health as Chief Clinical Officer, and I am your host for this evening. Before we begin our presentation, I would like to provide just a few housekeeping tips regarding the run of show for the evening. Today's session is being recorded, so the audience is currently muted during the entire presentation. At the end of the program, you will have the opportunity to ask questions to any of our presenters. To do so, please feel free to just submit your questions throughout the program at any time using that chat icon, which is at the bottom of your screen. The questions, they will be gathered and moderated during the Q&A portion of our program, and we will try to get to as many as we can. Whatever questions we're unable to do, we will include in a Q&A section that will be posted to a resource website following the program. With that, let's go ahead and begin. Today's topic is family, finance, and philanthropy. And I am really passionate about the subject because giving is just part of who I am and how I live my life. In my daily work, my job is of course focused on giving to our community, our patients, and our physician teams. Recently, my husband, who's also a physician, and I made a decision for our legacy plans to include Banner Health after our passing. It's a joy to give through those legacy plans, and my husband and I are so pleased to be a part of it. It's my hope today that you will learn more about how you too can create a family legacy at Banner Health to advance medicine in our community. Today's program features Larry Lytle, Banner Health Foundation board member. Additionally, you will hear from long-standing donors and friends to the Banner Alzheimer's Institute, Heidi and Nancy Teets. I know you will come away from this program inspired to leave a legacy with some tactical tips to enhance your estate planning process. It's now my pleasure to introduce you to Larry Lytle. Larry serves as a financial advisor at RBC Wealth Management and is also a passionate member of the Banner Health Foundation board. Thank you, Larry.
Well, thank you. And welcome. Welcome to the At Home Together. Also welcome to the first At Home Together where we're really focusing on legacy giving. So I have the honor to speak to that. One of the things I am very passionate about is philanthropy and giving. My history with philanthropy and giving goes back a long ways. I started my first nonprofit about 30 years ago now. And I think over the course of time, I think I've started 12 and never left the organizations. I've always been inside and done a lot of work in that space. And I'm also a chartered advisor in philanthropy. So I feel very honored and grateful to be able to speak to you about something that I'm passionate about and something that I think my industry gets wrong, which is about giving through your estates. First slide up is talking about one of the great things about us as a country is we are a very giving country. About 2/3 of Americans will actually volunteer on any given year, and about 85% of Americans actually donate every single year. And then we run into this massive disconnect when it comes to legacy. If you consider 85% give on a year-over-year basis, but yet only 6 to 12%, so almost the exact inverse, give in their estates. That's a pretty big disconnect. So as an industry, we've tried to figure out why and what do we need to do. So one of the things that has come out of that research is there's really 3 primary reasons that inhibit people from moving forward with including charities and legacy giving into their estate plan. First and foremost is actually the focus on, they want to make sure I leave everything to the kids. And we'll talk through each one of these, but that's really far and away the most dominant reason. The second reason is that, is silly as it seems, the second biggest reason is no one asked. And there's been some studies that have gone through it. Or if they asked, people weren't sure who to ask or how to do it, or just a real confusion about the process. And then the last one is they don't feel like they qualify. There's a consistent theme that charitable giving in the estate, that's for those people. That's for the 1%ers, and rather thinking of it as it's a tool anybody can use. It's a tool that everybody can use. So go ahead and go to the next slide. So in my job as a financial advisor, I deal with the first question all the time, which is, well, I just want to give it all to the next generation. And interestingly enough, that actually becomes more of a concern the older you get rather than the younger you get. There is an inverse to it, that you really want to make sure that you're providing and giving for that next following generation. And very valuable, very valid approach. You know, your family's been with you. You want to make sure you benefit your family in the future. Here's what I bring up. In an estate planning, the most easiest thing that's going to happen is giving of your assets. It's a thing. It's got to go somewhere. It's going to go somewhere. You know, we do estate planning so that we control where it goes, as opposed to letting the courts decide or something else. So the giving of things is not the issue. The most difficult thing to give and to pass is actually your morals. What do you expect out of this next generation? What do you want them? How do you want them to interact with their fellow citizens, their fellow man? That one's actually more of a challenge. And one of the best tools for that is through philanthropic giving, because of all the things that it says, you know, including the main reason people don't do it. When you include a nonprofit or a charitable giving in part of your estate, you are clearly setting a flag that says, this is important to me. This approach, this group, this need, this issue is important to me enough to where I want them to be taken care of. And that communicates so much, especially in what you give to. You know, there's a million different things to give to. So are you giving to social causes? Are you giving to the arts? Are you giving to education, technology, advancements? Those are all communicating things to that next generation. And then the amount actually says something too. You know, if you've been a big donor, been a big giver throughout your lifetime, but in the end, it's a much smaller presence, it doesn't have the impact. And it also may not be that complex. So it may be something that just the estate attorney does, but not engage the beneficiaries in the delivery of the gift. And those are really good ways of again, communicating this is important. And you can even communicate it, and you can even set it up so that your passion has been this. You want the next generation, the inheriting generation, to have their passion and decide how to distribute it. And you can build those into the process. But it is a great job of teaching. This is kind of what I want you to do. On the backside is, you know, not only does every dark cloud have a silver lining, but every silver cloud has a dark lining. And there is a negative to too much passing. You know, there is an interesting thing is that in most all cultures, there's some form of the comment, shirt sleeves are shirt sleeves in 3 generations. Meaning first generation makes it, second generation expands it, third generation blows it. We've all seen the stories. That's the one that I think TMZ made their money off of, just following that trend. And one of the things we do as planners, one of the things you do as a family, is try to make sure, how do I not follow in that arc? And there's, again, that's one of the things that philanthropy can do, is the arc that ends up on the third generation destroying it. There's many different things that can cause it. One of them can be a lack of engagement with the community and a lack of understanding of the benefits that came to get to the wealth that they're at. So that's a really strong piece. And by the same token, when we do the research, it says, why do people give? Of the top 3 reasons, this giving as a family history is typically always like that second or third. The other 2 being a spiritual obligation, motivation, or a responsibility that comes from wealth, as well. I need to give back. I need to give a hand up. A family history of giving is right in there as well. So it's another reason why, if you give through your estate planning process, you not only affect the inheritors, but you also affect future generations, because that creates, that continues that foundation of family giving, which will create and pass on to the next generation. So it's really, it's a very impactful thing. And especially when you think about it, it's one of the few impactful things you can do on that next generation to try to communicate what you want them to be. So let's go to the next slide. So I'm here talking about the Banner Health Foundation. So one of the things is, well, what does giving to Banner Health Foundation communicate to that next generation? You know, how can you use this to share what you're trying to share? And the nice part about Banner is their reach is really wide, and they touch so many different lives that you can enhance your personal giving desire through the use of the Institute, and especially through the use of multiple channels within Banner Health Foundation and all of its different directions. So one way is a very beautiful way is actually honoring a family member. So if the wealth was created from a primary member, it's a great way to give back to that member and doing a naming rights and doing a gift in the name of. And as a matter of fact, we'll hear a beautiful story about that tonight. Secondarily is, if your driver for your lifetime of giving was that giving a hand up, that extending that reach out to those that are in need, Banner's a perfect way to do that. Best estimates is about 25% of Arizonans are on some form of care insurance, whether it's Medicare, Medicaid, or self-pay, that doesn't cover the full cost of care. And when you consider the Banner has about a 50% market share, that means there is a good portion of the patients that come through the front door on an annual basis that can't cover their care. And giving through Banner Hospital Foundation, Banner Health Foundation, is a great way of expressing and taking care of that care, saying, yeah, this is where I want those funds to go. And it communicates, that's part of what it communicates to that generation, which is hand up, reach down, take care of the needy, be a part of the safety net in your community. Another way is if you're into advancing medicine, if you're into advancing technology, Banner has got some phenomenal opportunities that really focus in on taking healthcare to the new level. The MD Anderson Institute, the Alzheimer's Institute, Banner's doing a lot of work in behavioral health. There's a lot of focus on children's and children's needs. So whatever your passion is, there's probably a home somewhere within the Banner Hospital Foundation for you to communicate this is important, and for you to create opportunities to be able to do that. Next slide. I love this quote. It takes a second for it to kind of process through, but I love this quote. One of the pushbacks that sometimes a hospital will get, you charge money, why do you need philanthropic dollars? And the reason they need it is because of all those things we talked about the last slide about the advances in technology and advances of care and the safety net that they're providing. But it also is this quote from Peter, which I love. Peter Fine's the president of Banner. And he talks about how for every dollar of philanthropy that comes in the door, he has to sell $22 worth of services to free up the same amount of cash. So philanthropy can get things off the list done so much faster than just being able to self-fund. So that's what philanthropy does. It's an accelerator. It's an accelerator to the advances in care. It's the accelerator to the support network. It's the accelerator to giving you a better experience, giving patients a better experience going through the healthcare environment. So that's a real powerful point for why philanthropy does so well in a hospital health system. Next slide. Now, one thing I will tell you, and this doesn't have to do with the legacy, but still has to do with that impacting that next generation. As you all know, you learn something better over time than you do in a single shot. So as beautiful and as passionate as I am about legacy giving and the impact that it can have, I'm just as passionate about giving as you go. And it's one of the things we've tried to do within our family. It's one of the things I try to teach my client families to do, which is to expand your reach. You meet your next generation, and I say next generation meaning kids, grandkids, great grandkids, nieces, nephews, friends, neighbors. It's whatever people you're trying to impact, and you can do a lot. You can do a lot to impact them along the way. If they happen to be elementary school and below, that one's a very hands-on kind of environment. You need to do physical things with them. Volunteering is really great because money's still a foreign concept, and especially the zeros on the back end of the dollars they can be overwhelming because they just don't have any form of reference. And additional is encouraging them to start the pace. There's a lot of the school systems, a lot of the sports teams are really good about encouraging their participants to do fundraisers. One of the things you can use to enhance that is once they've fundraised for a organization, to be able to go and visit and see how those dollars are being put to use. Very physical, but they can be very, very dramatic changes and really can set character for that youngest generation. In middle school, that's when you start really applying the personal touch. So, once they start getting allowances and start getting them engaged with trying to put some things aside. One of the things I encourage for a discussion as early as you can, and middle school is a great time to have it, is most of us as a family, even if it's not formal, we will have some form of a giving bucket. We know what that budget's going to be. You're rarely going to go one year, $10, the next year, $100,000, unless something happened in between. You typically kind of give within a range. I would encourage, make that formal and communicate that. And part of what you're communicating is why that number? And how do you go about identifying what you're giving to? Of all the lists that you could give or that you're asked for, which ones do you choose? Why do you choose it? Have those dialogues. And it really does help because their brains are expanding. They're looking for rationale and logic and thought processing. And what would I do? It's a perfect time to do that. Once they get older and you're into the high school, college, and later, that's when you really do set and train. So that's when you teach them. And sometimes, a lot of times, honestly, it's learn together, which is, how do I know if what I'm giving to is actually making an impact? How do I know if the organization that I'm giving to is actually doing what I think it's supposed to be doing? And it's making the moves that I want it to do. And like I said, a lot of individuals may not know that, but it's a great experiment to do together. And this is really good with the adult kids. Another technique that I use and I recommend is using some of the things we use professionally. Like for the Banner Hospital Foundation, we have an annual highest and best use. And it's fun. It's almost like a business plan competition. So as a board, we come together within the Banner system, ideas are generated, and they have to make their case. Why should you give to webcams and neonatal units versus a new device for blood testing? Both are really good. Both have very, very different delivery techniques. So which one deserves funding? That's highest and best use. And you can do that as a family. We've done that actually as a family defined process for all of the grandkids to come together and say, here's what we want you to do. Come up with an idea. Doesn't matter what it is. Or you can put some boundaries. I don't support this. I don't support this. So something in the space, but come up with an idea. And the first pass is, because you don't want to make it, you want to make it informative and educational, but not punishing. So everybody's idea gets funded at a certain level. but then you have a spare pool of cash that would be willing to be funded, that you have a competition, you present, you defend your idea as to why you think this is a great use. And then the group decides that we're going to take that extra money and we're going to back the following. It's a really fun, very entertaining kind of thing to do, and it can really change the engagement level of those next generations. We can do it with adult kids through middle school and below. Everybody can, because that is a great process. So that's kind of some of the techniques for what do you do on a younger spot. Like I said, it's not exactly an estate planning thing, but I think it's really good about addressing that concern about giving all of my assets to the younger generation. Do that while you're giving and training how to give away and how to participate. So let's go to the next slide. So now we're going to switch topics and move back over to the number 2 reason that most people will cite for why they haven't included giving into their legacy, and that's nobody asked, or I don't know who to ask. Fascinating study, 2015. They took a group of attorneys, the state attorneys, that were in their standard. 6 to 12 definitely had a list of 6 to 12% of their clients would include legacy giving. And they gave them an assignment and said, I want you to ask a single question. Would you like to give in your estate to a charity? When they did that, the participation rate doubled instantly. So all I did was took an ask. Another interesting follow-up was they took that same group and they changed the question. And the question was, a lot of my clients like to give in their estate plan. Would you be interested? When they asked it that way, it tripled. So there really is a thing about asking. There is, and an interesting also study was a third of individuals, of high net worth individuals, stated that their financial advisor had never asked them about giving. And another study said that 40% of the high net worth individuals, estate attorneys, had never asked. So there is a big gap. There's just a disconnect of people considering it and thinking it through. So if you are on this call, you've at least thought about it. So you may be going, I don't know who to ask. Well, the first one is, we all have somebody in our life that is kind of our most trusted advisor. Sometimes it's a family member or a friend. Sometimes it's your financial advisor. Sometimes it's your estate attorney that you talk to. Sometimes it's your CPA. Start there. Start with that most trusted advisor. And here's one thing I will also really encourage you is utilize the Banner Hospital Foundation staff or the Health Foundation staff. And here's why. The pushback is, oh, they're going to know that I'm thinking about it. They're going to hound me. No. These guys see this every single day. They're in the trenches every single day. I mean, me as a financial advisor who is heavily involved in charitable giving, I probably see it once a week. And I am in probably the top 1 to 5% of advisors in the state that discuss this. They see it every single day, which means they have the best in class scenarios. Oh, you want to do that? Here's what we've seen. Oh, that's your concern? Here's what we've seen. They're phenomenal for that. And they also know who they've worked with. So if you go, well, my estate guy doesn't really know, they might say, well, keep your guy, but bring this guy in because he knows how to do it. And the same thing for your CPA. They have some great ladies that really know what they're doing. And that's one of the reasons why you want to make sure you include them. Next slide. So the third reason, and I think that this gets underreported because people don't like to admit it. As an industry, we do this really, really bad. Most of the time when you hear conversations about charitable giving, especially in estate plan charitable giving, It's the techno geeks, it's the geeky part of us that starts talking about, here's all these amazing things that you can do. If you've got a building, we could do this. If you've got an oil rig, we can do this. Most people don't have an oil rig. We forget to tell you how easy it can be. There's a whole slew of efforts that involves nobody but you in about 2.5 minutes. And that is anywhere where there's a beneficiary line on any document that you have, you can put Banner Health Foundation there. You have an IRA, you have a life insurance policy, you have all kinds of things that you can put Banner Health Foundation down. I'm going a little too long. There are some things that are very specific. So if you sell something big, reach out. Tax laws changes, which we might be on the crowd sub, reach out. If you have something that you want to pass to that next generation, yeah, there's all kinds of cool stuff in there. And the last thing I'll give you before we move on is there was a beautiful little law that came through that everybody should know. And I'm telling people at the coffee shop, it's everybody should know. And that is, if you have IRA distributions, so you're in the RMD category, or you're taking withdrawals now, you can actually, with this last tax law changes, you can do distributions from your IRA directly to a not-for-profit, and it doesn't get counted as ordinary income. So it goes directly, it counts as an RMD, but doesn't count as ordinary income. That's a beautiful little thing, and we're doing it all over we can. So with that, I will pass, and we will move on to one of a really beautiful thing, which is, Nancy Teets is on the line. We're going to introduce a video from Nancy where she made a legacy gift in honor of her husband, John, the Banner Alzheimer's Institute. Nancy and her daughter, Heidi, will be telling you the story of John, his legacy, and why, how it's making a difference at Banner Alzheimer's Institute.
John was an amazing man. He was, the first word come to mind is he was a leader. He definitely enjoyed what he did in life. He was a problem solver, and a very good one. He was confident, but not necessarily arrogant. He could come into a room, his presence was just right on. He was very conscious of keeping his priorities straight with faith, family, and then business. He had Johnisms where it would be common sense is not so common. This is the first day of the rest of my life, and we kind of still live by those.
Well, Dad grew up with nothing, basically, and he never wanted to look back. Speaking as a father, he was independent, spiritually based, always dependable, always made us feel safe in this world, no matter what age, just by always being there for us, always having a solution. I always asked him what motivated him, and he says, Heidi, I never wanted to look back. And I think that was his drive to keep, reading, improving, bettering himself. He thrived on improving himself in any and all aspects, to be a better communicator, to reach out to people, to be able to deliver his messages, to communicate his ideas to others.
He wanted to give back. He wanted to be part of the community effort. He was very happy to help out the organizations and the people that would need backing for charitable things. He was very philanthropic. Banner was our godsend because we had been to other doctors that had done the diagnosis. Dr. Terrio was our godsend because we were having problems proceeding through this journey. And instantly, our first appointment with him, he met us on time. He was very calm, collect, comfortable, which is exactly what John needed. It was one of those things that put John at ease to be able to be himself and feel compassion and comfort.
Banner was able to offer us a quality of care that wasn't out there yet. And that gave us the tools and the strength to implement with Dad to allow us to have the relationship that we could not have otherwise had, really to the very end. And so Banner was invaluable to us in a lot of those aspects. Everyday tools to psychological tools, how do you handle certain situations?
So relaxed with him, which was totally opposite. And all of a sudden, John had his dignity back. It was almost like, oh my gosh, I can be myself.
How did we approach the process? It was more, I guess, how can we help those on the front lines the way Banner had helped us, and allowing Banner to be that vehicle. We knew a lot of support and funding goes to research, but we wanted to help the caregivers, the family members, the nurses, those that are experiencing Alzheimer's on the front lines, how to better improve the quality of their lives and maintain their dignity. And it was just natural. It was just more, what can we do? And then when Banner came to us and gave us some options, and the library just seemed to be more natural because Dad loved books, he loved the education, the knowledge, encouraging always people to do their best, be their best, and it was just kind of a natural fit.
The library was a real delightful venue that we were able to do with John's name on it. I know he would be very proud. He would have probably put it up there himself. He would be very pleased that we took the initiative to go ahead and put something in his name. I wanted to leave a legacy gift in John's honor because of the value Banner gave our family, our life, John especially, and Banner just knocked it out of the park.
If an individual or family wants to make a donation or estate planning gift to Banner, they can contact the Banner Foundation and get help there.
I would love to be able to encourage anyone considering a legacy gift to Banner. Leaving a legacy for us would be actually what John would have done if he had had the opportunity to say, you know, we're going to do this for Banner, because he did it for so many others. And he did support so many other foundations and things that it's just right for us to carry it on and leave his name as a legacy.
Great. Thank you so much, Nancy and Heidi. Thank you for not only your donation, but also for your willingness to share your story. It is a beautiful legacy to give to your family, and a beautiful feature to be able to give to people who are at Banner hospitals and hospital foundations. We're completed our formal part of the presentation. We're moving into question and answer section. So if you have questions, please make sure that you use the chat feature, submit them. We'll spend the next chunk of time kind of going through what those questions could be and how do we work on those. So the first one I'll talk to you about is, got a question that said, it's hard for my husband and I to talk about quote unquote end of life. Yeah, do you have any suggestions for how to broach this so that we can discuss legacy giving? It is a tough one. It does definitely feel icky. That's one of the reasons why, as an industry, I think we've called legacy giving about 5 different things, because we keep trying to come up with a marketing name that doesn't sound gross. We're still not that great at it. But one of the things actually I've been calling it more has been to start the discussion about sustainability. So part of that conversation is, if it's if you're starting the conversation about, I'm grateful for the care I've been given, and that's why I'm considering Banner, then that's where the conversation starts, is we're so grateful for the care that we've been given. Let's talk about how we can make sure that we can actually have this level of care for others in our community. So you focus on the purpose behind it rather than on talking about, hey, we're getting older, we should talk about this. Secondly, we're thinking about, second question came up, which was, okay, let's talk about expenses. The expenses are proportionate to the complexity of the gift, if that makes sense. There is no expense for logging into your 401k and adding an additional beneficiary that becomes Banner Hospital Foundation. Doesn't cost you a dime. There's same thing about submitting a form for a life insurance policy. Now, if you want to do something complex, it depends on the level of complexity. If you want to do something as simple as, I've got a piece of property, you guys can have it. That one's done fairly easy as well. There's not a whole lot of cost to that. It's really more of just creating the forms. Now, if you are, I'll give you the most complex one I know of, which is kind of fun. Family that was passing a business from first generation to second, so from father to daughter. So the first thing they did was they sold a portion of the business from father to a donor advised fund, and then sold the rest, another chunk of the business to the daughter. And by selling a portion to both of those, they were able to take some discounts. And then that donor advised fund sold the business back to the daughter. That one's complex. That one cost a chunk of money, probably cost about, I want to say $25,000 to be able to set that up. So that's the best that I can give you for that. The rest of it, it's going to really dig into the depth. But it truly is, if it's not a complex gift, it doesn't cost much. And it could probably even be free, but that's a conversation for your advisor, trusted advisor. And the next question was, how do you include your children and other beneficiaries into the conversation? Family meeting, that at some point, it's a good idea to share what your thoughts are about what's going to happen with your estate. I know there's a lot of pushback when it comes to estate planning about, I don't want my kids to know. I don't want that next generation to know because I don't want to ruin them. You don't have to talk dollar amounts, but if you can talk intent and talk desire, that's one of the things that you can do. There was also a really good comment that I had heard from another gentleman who said, we make people take a lot of training to drive a car, to own a gun, to use heavy equipment, but for money, we just give it to them. So, that's a point to think about, which is if you want them to understand how to live with it, you should start that training early rather than late. Next question. Can my planned gift remain confidential even after I pass? Yes. There is, it's part of the accepted process, which is anonymous gifts. That is truly established. So if you don't want anybody to ever know, outside of it depends on how the trust is set. So in theory, if your trust is a blind trust, then even the other donors, the other inheritors will not know about the gift. But that's more of an estate tool. But the gift that going out anonymous, that can stay anonymous. We have processes for that. So some other examples of gifts that people have made through plans, you name it, people have done it. Everything from art to untradable, like basically non-traded REITs, which is real estate that's it's an investment but doesn't have an exit to it. Probably the only thing that I know of that is oh, please don't give that away, is timeshares. Most nonprofits really don't even want to take those on just because they're costly and not very marketable. But pretty much everything else I've seen boats. I have actually seen oil rigs and gas and oil rights that have been donated. If you have it, you can give it. I worked on a case where we were donating, we were looking to donate historical jewels from the Rajas, some Rajas in India that were being donated through into one of the museums. So you name it, we can do it. Okay. I'm thinking about leaving a portion or a percentage of my estate to charity, but I'm not sure what percentage to give. That one is one that you'll need to, you'll kind of want to think through. It's a volume thing. I mean, the easiest thing is, some of the easiest ones is you look at it and you go, well, if we want to divide it up equally among that next generation, then you take a similar portion. So if there's 5 inheritors on the first line, you make it 6 and you give an equal portion. Or you can do a sub portion. So if it's a third, a third, and a third, the cheapest way to do it is you go 33, 33, 33, and 1. A more significant way would be 30s across the board. And then you give a kind of a half percentage, a half of what would be, so maybe a 10 or a 15. So you do it from the math standpoint. Another guideline would be what you give on an annual basis, doing some type of multiplier. If we give a certain amount, then 10 times that. Those are some other ways of coming up with a percentage. Next question, which is, what if I make a planned gift and I decide to change it later? Most of the time, that is easily doable. Definitely on the easy routes, which is the beneficiary structure, you go back in and change the beneficiary structure. If it's a more complex structure with an estate attorney, it might require changes to an estate. I'll give you another example where the process is built. And most of the time, the estate law is built so that we know that this might happen. So there is a tool right now called a charitable lead trust. So it works really well if you sell something big. So I'll give you an example. Someone sells a business and let's say, woo, it's $10 million. And from that, they have $1 million in long-term capital gains that they're exposed to. As a family, you decide, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take $1 million that matches that, and I'm going to put that $1 million into a charitable lead trust. Now, it doesn't wipe all the capital gains out because there's different percentages, but maybe a third of it goes away. So, but if you put $1 million into a charitable lead trust, you get $1 million tax break. Yay, that's beautiful. That's why you did it. Then over the course of the time horizon, and in this example, we used in this case, we used a 20-year horizon. So over the course of 20 years, the charity actually gets 1.2 million in distribution. And whatever is left at the end of the 20 years goes to the inheritors, gift tax free, estate tax free. Now, family has to pay taxes on it as it's going, but that was the big purpose. And if you look at over 20 years, we are estimating that basically $1 million tax break, 1.2 to charity, and at least 1.5 to the following generation. So that's an example. Now, even within that tool where you're picking a charity and a charity is getting paid out over 20 years, there is a structure in there that says, I can change the charity beneficiary. I can't remove it. I can't go, well, I'm not going to give it away anymore, but I can change it. So there is processes for that. It would cost to have the contract rewritten to make that change, but it's not significant because you're not rebuilding it. To build the charitable lead trust, it's about 15 to 30,000. To change it, it's 3 to 4. Okay, do I need to update my entire estate plan to add a planned gift? No. You can do an amendment to it. Frequently, though, when you crack it open, you do end up making a few other changes along the way. But you can do that as part of a beneficiary change within it, and it's a modification. It's not a rewrite. Does my home state matter in regards to how I need to create my estate plan? Yes. First and foremost, because home states have differing tax laws. and whether or not they're going to tax your estate or not. From a charitable giving standpoint, I can't think of any major driver in that space off the top of my head. That would be something your CPA or your estate attorney would probably have a better hold on. But I know that there is a beautiful contest that's going on right now amongst about 4 or 5 states. They all kind of want to be what we call the Delaware of trusts. So Delaware is kind of like where all LLCs are created out of, because they have great tax laws around LLCs. And there's a few states between Nevada and South Dakota and a few others that are competing to try to be that default state for trusts. So yes, your home state and also your state where you create your trust, both of those can have impact on really the taxation, not so much on the gift. And for who do we contact at Banner to discuss your legacy gift? I'd say you start with the head. You start with Christy or Andy. You start with Lisa. Anybody who you have had contact to from the Banner Hospital Foundation, they will get you to the right place. They work as a team, and they've been all of the ones that I've worked with, and I've worked across multiple channels and multiple ranges, and even multiple cities between Tucson and Phoenix. All of them have been super responsive. And actually, the website, if you want to poke around before you call, the Banner Hospital Foundation website does actually have some really good contact in there as well. Can you speak more about the family values and how they should impact legacy giving? Where I've come across it is really as the lead family, and that's what I'm calling you. You're the one you're talking to about how do we do this, not the second and the third generations, but the lead family. You have an outlook on life, and whether that outlook is pull yourself up by your bootstraps, or democracy lives on a knife point and we need to all be engaged in making sure that it stays there, or those that have been given much as expected, you have those as your mantras, your walkarounds. I call them, for my family, they call them Larryisms. I talk often about what I expect for my following generations. What do I expect? What's your give back? If you've been given a beautiful, wonderful, unique skill set that you're crafted with, that you're really, really good at, you should use that. And you should use that both in your career or in your family structure, that skill set that you have makes that better. But let's expand that. Let's figure out how to use that skill set to make the world better, make the community better, and the world as I see it. So it really does pay to have those types of conversations. And even down to, I've done work with families where there's not been a great relationship across the generations. And working in those situations, sometimes, not all the times, but sometimes, working on a project together can give an area of commonality that you didn't have before. You can work together to solve a problem, work together to advance a need, and they can see a different side of you. You're not in that familiar role. And you can also give and take leadership qualities, and you let the younger generation really explore and use it as a chance to champion them. Or you can bring them into your world to say, see, dad may be dad one way at home, or mom may be one way at home, but when we're out, we're a different person. So those things, they can be healing, is the best thing I can say. And it's one of the ways that we kind of work towards it. And last question, we're coming down to the last few minutes. So last question that I just got in, which was, what if you want to leave a legacy to more than one charity? More the merrier. Absolutely more the merrier. Any structure that is built that can take a gift to a charity can take a gift to multiple charities. One of the criteria that you would want to consider is, especially from an estate planning standpoint, is the survivability of the organization you're considering. You want to make sure that if you put them, hopefully you live another 30, 40, 50, 100 years from now, and you want an organization that will still be there. It saves you from having to make changes. So if it's an organization that is either brand new, one of the numbers that we use in philanthropy is Maricopa County has about 10,000 nonprofits at any point in time. And every year, about 2,000 are added and about 15 to 1,800 go away. So there is a lot to choose from. You want to make sure that you're kind of working with ones that you think will both have an impact and have some longevity to them. But you could definitely expand into more. And it's a the first filter is, what am I passionate about? First filter is, what is the change that I want to see in the world? And then you go from there, build from there. So that's where I've got us down to kind of the last piece of it. If there's any last questions, or if there's questions that you still have, but you didn't get a chance to share, absolutely come back, share them. And the Banner Hospital Foundation staff will get those questions to me, and I will get the answers back to you. So with that, I really appreciate the time. I really appreciate your attention and allowing me to share my passion with you. And thank you very much.
Thank you for participating in our virtual program. I hope you found this interesting and informative. As a reminder, you will receive a follow-up email with a recording of the presentation and links to resources. Please feel free to share the information. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't take a moment to underscore how instrumental philanthropy is to advancing medicine and patient care here at Banner Health. I know many of you participating in the webinar have made contributions to advanced medicine, and I just want to say we couldn't be where we are today without your support. Donations allow us to provide patient assistance, foster research, and enhances our ability to serve patients and their families. If you are interested in making a legacy gift, please contact bannerhealthfoundation.org. The follow-up email you will receive will provide the link that you need. And again, thank you most of all for helping to inspire our patients. We are honored by your trust in Banner Health. And thanks again to everyone who participated. Good night.